this afternoon. This is our second virtual town hall for the Department of Labor. My name is Kyle Tweed. I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator. We're a few minutes after 2 o'clock, but just to give kind of a brief overview at the top, for those of you that are interested, we will be recording this session and posting it on our Facebook as well as our website. You can also access this full recording after the call has ended as well, so feel free to do that as well. Just as we get started, I would ask that if you have any questions, we will reserve some time at the end for questions. So please feel free to post those in the right-hand side of your screen. And with that, I will kick it over to Commissioner Harrington for the Department of Labor, just to kind of give a quick intro on what we will be talking about today. We'll be really just talking about the resources available through the department for self-employed individuals. So Commissioner Harrington, I'll kick it to you.
Great, thanks, Kyle. Thank you everyone for joining. As Kyle mentioned, it looks like we've got a great group of attendees again here today. This is just our continued effort to reach out to employers to let them know what's out there in terms of both relief and assistance, but also helping them navigate the unemployment insurance world that we know it to be now. And specifically today, we're talking about self-employed individuals, independent contractors, sole proprietors, and what the Federal CARES Act or Relief Act does for them. And we figured it would be helpful just to walk you through most of that process. We do have our unemployment insurance director with us today, and as an additional resource, we have Commissioner Joan Goldstein from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, Commissioner of Economic Development. Specifically as it relates to self-employed, independent contractors, sole proprietors, those individuals under the existing UI system prior to COVID-19 were not eligible for unemployment insurance benefits. However, with the new relief package, that does open the door for these individuals to be eligible for benefits, and we want to talk a little bit about what that process looks like. Overall, Cameron can talk about the different available resources and what the program will look like from beginning to end. But let me just spend a minute talking about where we are in the process of getting this system up and running. It is different than traditional unemployment insurance. There are additional requirements under this new provision. And because this isn't a group of people that we typically work with, they are not in our system. And so we are essentially building a new system from scratch, and that has taken a little bit of time. I want to provide a little bit of comfort here in that, when we're talking about launching a new system, we're talking about days and weeks. But if you were talking with one of our sister states, what we've heard is that they're looking at months to fully set up this system. So I think we're in a good position. I know it's still frustrating for people. I know a lot of self-employed individuals are needing the benefit as quickly as possible. So just know that we have a team here in state government that is devoted to designing and launching this system as quickly as possible. We hope that within a week, we can have the application online so people can submit their application for benefits and that we can begin issuing benefits within the next 7 to 10 days after the application is launched. So again, I think it's a pretty rapid process. I know it probably doesn't seem like that, but we are moving as fast as we can. We do know there will be a great influx of claims from this population, and that's what we're also preparing for as well. But I think for right now, what people need to know are how do they qualify and what are the qualifying factors, and then what is that process going to look like going forward. And that's where I would kick it off to Cameron to continue the conversation. Again, thank you everybody for joining. I will stay on as long as I can, but again, appreciate you taking the time to hear from us, and hopefully what you get from us is of some value to you, and we would just ask that you share it around as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate you taking the time to kind of jump through those particular aspects. Before we kick it off to Cameron, who had asked just to kind of unmute your mic. So if Cam, you could give us just an overview of the CARES Act kind of as a whole, and then kind of how it relates to the individuals that are on the call today. Most of the 900, I would presume, would be self-employed or have an interest in the aspects that surround the CARES Act. So how does the CARES Act and how does this new how are we implementing this process for self-employed individuals?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cameron Wood. I am the Unemployment Insurance Director for the department, and we're glad to have you all on. We are doing the best we can to provide as much information and effective information to you all as employers. I know you're all in a state of unknown here, and we're doing the best we can to try and get you information so you understand where the department is in the process of implementing these new programs. So I appreciate everybody being on. There are mainly three new programs in the Federal CARES Act that the department is trying to implement that will provide benefits to Vermonters. The first is, as I'm sure a lot of individuals are aware, the additional $600. That is called the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, and it is an additional $600 to everyone who is eligible for either unemployment insurance benefits or what's being called pandemic unemployment assistance, which is for another segment of the population, which includes individuals who are self-employed. So first, the additional $600, we are working to get that implemented this week for individuals who are filing unemployment insurance benefits. The second program we are trying to uplift is called Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. And what that is an additional 13 weeks of benefits for individuals who have exhausted their unemployment insurance claim or have had their unemployment insurance claim, their benefit year expire. And those individuals will be eligible for an additional 13 weeks to collect. We are in the process of trying to get that stood up as well, and we hope to have more information for those individuals here shortly this week or next. For individuals on this call related to the self-employed, I think what is directly impacting them is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or PUA. That is the largest program that we are trying to get off the ground currently. And as the commissioner mentioned, we are trying to, it is building an entirely new standalone program that will operate very similar to how the unemployment insurance program operates. But as the commissioner mentioned, because a lot of these individuals are sole proprietors, independent contractors, individuals that we don't as a department collect data on, we are having to build up an entirely new technology platform in order to intake that information. So I'll speak a little bit more about the CARES Act, and then I'll dive a little bit deeper into the self-employed, the PUA piece. What people need to understand is the federal law was signed in a little over a week ago. The department has to enter into agreements with the U.S. Department of Labor in order to effectively administer these programs, in order to have the authority to administer these programs. We entered into that agreement with USDOL immediately. So the the programs will be in effect beginning last week. Now, that doesn't mean that they're obviously up and running as of last week. It just gives the department the authority to begin to provide these benefits. So because last week we were able to begin to pay out the $600, those individuals will start to receive that money this week because the department entered into that agreement with USDOL. I want everybody to understand that although we don't have the pandemic unemployment assistance program yet off the ground, we will have the capacity to retroactively enroll individuals and provide them retroactive benefits, including the additional $600 a week. So the commissioner, I believe, has done a great job in all of his public communications informing the public that although you may not be receiving your benefit today because of a delay in getting these programs up and running, you will not be denied those benefits. It will simply need to be a retroactive application, and we will do the best we can to ensure that everybody has the full array of benefits that are available to them. To go into a little more detail about the self-employed and the pandemic unemployment assistance, it's mainly for self-employed individuals. However, that is not the entire population that can be served. It is for anyone who, essentially, it's for anyone who is ineligible for unemployment insurance. So that includes a large segment of the population who are self-employed, sole proprietors, single member LLCs, but it also includes people that are independent contractors. It also includes people that are part-time earners. Maybe they don't have enough wages in their base period to qualify them for unemployment insurance benefits. Those individuals will also likely be eligible for this pandemic unemployment assistance. Now, moving forward, we are trying to stand up this platform, like we said, which will operate very similar to unemployment insurance. There will be an initial application in which we ask for information to determine someone's eligibility. There will then be continued weekly claims that are having to be certified by the population, and then we will make benefit payments based on those weekly certifications. A few pieces I'll talk to now. The criteria, the requirements to become eligible, and also individuals who will not be eligible for this pandemic unemployment assistance. First off, there are 11 specific criteria outlined in the CARES Act and outlined in the U.S. Department of Labor guidance where an individual seeking to become eligible on pandemic unemployment assistance will have to certify that they meet one of the 11 criteria. Now, for the self-employed, the main criteria, and I'm going to read it so I get it entirely accurate. The individual's place of employment is closed as a direct result of COVID-19 public health emergency. So for a lot of individuals, because of the orders coming out from the governor, and this is across the country, are not able to actually work because they are being ordered to stay at home and only go outside for any essential needs, going to the store, for example. So because most of the self-employed cannot work because they are being ordered to stay home, they will likely fall under that criteria to become eligible for this program. And we will have this information up on our website hopefully this week. I hope individuals know that we just received guidance from USDOL on Sunday evening, very late Sunday night. And so we are working through that guidance as quickly as we can. And again, we hope to have more information up on our website about this. But back to the initial eligibility criteria. You have to meet one of those. Again, the vast majority of people will fall under one of these categories, even if you're self-employed. Separately, you have to be able and available for work. That is still a requirement under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Now, what does that mean given that you can't work because of the COVID-19 health emergencies? You are still able and available except for the fact that you can't work because of the governor's orders. So it's not that you would not answer no to an able and available question simply because there's a governor's order directing you to stay inside. That does not prohibit you from being able to work, but for the fact that you are being ordered to quarantine and stay at home. And so I just want to be clear with the individuals on the call that that will be a requirement when you certify both your initial pandemic unemployment assistance application, but also on your weekly pandemic unemployment assistance certifications, you will certify that you are able and available for work. And simply the executive order requiring you to stay home does not prohibit that. Something that would prohibit somebody from being able and available would be if the individual is in the hospital, for example. That individual would not for that week be able to work if there was work offered. Individuals who are not eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance program, there are two criteria that have been identified by USDOL at this time. Individuals who can telework with pay. So keep in mind, most people who are self-employed, this will not apply to you if your business is closed down, you're not able to go outside and perform your services. However, again, for pandemic unemployment assistance, it also includes a larger segment of the population, independent contractors, for example. And as I mentioned earlier, people who are part-time but may be ineligible for unemployment assistance. For those individuals, if they can telework with pay, they would not be eligible. Similarly, individuals who are receiving sick pay or paid leave are not eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance. And these provisions are there to ensure that people who can continue to work will continue to work. The people who are receiving their sick leave or paid leave to make them whole will not also be receiving this benefit from the pandemic unemployment assistance program. So those are the initial criteria that we have for now. And I would direct everyone who is on the call to go to the department's website where we are putting information up sometimes on an hourly basis. You can sign up for our self-employed newsletter, in which case we will be providing more information as we move forward with the establishment of the program. We hope to have this program up and running, I would say, within a week or two. We can't promise a date because we are working as quickly as we can with the guidance that we have from the U.S. Department of Labor to implement the requirements. Those have to be built with our ADS partners and vendors that we're working with, and we will be building and testing the application as quickly as we can, and we hope to have more information available as we move forward. One question that I can anticipate is individuals are asking if they need to file for unemployment insurance benefits prior to applying for pandemic unemployment assistance. That is one of the things we are trying to clarify with our USDOL partners, and we will provide more information when we receive it. At this time, for individuals who have filed for unemployment assistance, if you've received a monetary determination describing you as ineligible, please hold on to that information, that piece of that paperwork, because you can provide that to us when we get to releasing this program as evidence that you have been denied for unemployment benefits. The other thing we are trying to do as we're working through this, just hopefully to alleviate some concern, is for individuals who have filed online, who have provided us an initial application, not requiring them to go back through and do it again. I'm not saying that this will be the case for every individual, but we are doing the best we can to take the information that we have already received for the individuals who are self-employed and download that information into the new application so individuals do not have to go in and repeat the process. So please be patient with us as we work through this. This is an entirely new program that the department did not have in place, that we are working as quickly as we can with our USDOL partners to understand and get stood up. And again, as the commissioner has mentioned multiple times, individuals will not lose out on their benefits simply by the delay of the department in getting these programs stood up. Kyle, I think that's probably a good stopping point. That's kind of an overview of pandemic unemployment assistance, and I'll turn it back over to you and we can get into the details as we move forward.
Yeah, Cam, that's great. And I appreciate you kind of going through in that level of detail. Before we move on to the steps that self-employed individuals should take, I just want to read a few questions and kind of go back to eligibility and kind of hit home on whether or not individuals are indeed eligible. So just have a couple of questions here, and I just want to read a question from Deb. I am a sole proprietor and lost 90% of my weekly income in the last 2 weeks. Am I eligible for unemployment insurance benefits? Another question from an anonymous participant saying I'm a massage therapist, but I also work 1 day a week at an oral surgery office. I filed for unemployment when I was laid off at the oral surgery office. And the question is that now that I'm eligible to file for my massage therapist income, I'm not sure how to change my claim. I know there's a lot of ambiguity there. I mean, there's could be a lot of specific instances, but if you could just kind of talk about specific clarity on eligibility, I think that would be really helpful. I know that one of the eligibility requirements is that they previously were not eligible for unemployment insurance. So if you could just kind of hit home on kind of some bullet points of eligibility, I think that would be great.
Yep. So in both instances that you highlighted, Kyle, those individuals will most likely be eligible, and I hope people understand we have to use those kind of broad generalized statements, because the last thing we want is to mislead anybody to say that everybody will be eligible and then somebody get frustrated with us when they are denied for a very specific fact-based reason. And so all individuals who are not eligible for unemployment insurance will be eligible under this program. The criteria that have been outlined by the U.S. Department of Labor are very broad, and they allow us the flexibility to work with individuals in all circumstances of employment. Specifically, the way unemployment insurance works and the reason sole proprietors aren't eligible for unemployment insurance is because it looks at your wage history to determine what you're monetarily eligible for moving forward. Sole proprietors, people who are self-employed, do not report that wage history to us. And that's one of the reasons we have these supplemental programs, is to assist them. So one of the things that we will have to validate as we begin to enroll individuals who are self-employed, we will have to validate some wage information for them. For all traditional employees in the state, we collect their wage history, their wage information from their employers, and we use that to calculate their eligibility amount, their weekly benefit amount. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program will operate very similarly to how we calculate the wage benefit, the weekly benefit amount. It actually operates the exact same way. So we have to validate the self-employed individual's wage information. We're likely going to have to do that through what they reported on their taxes. So for example, it will require us to validate the individual's most recent tax filing. And one piece of information we're trying to get from the U.S. Department of Labor is, does that mean 2019, where the tax filing extension has been extended through to July, or are we going off tax year 2018? How far back can we go for individuals who their last filing may have been 2017? So those are some of the pieces of information we're still seeking from the U.S. Department of Labor. But back to the eligibility piece. For individuals who don't have, who lack sufficient wage information in our system. They're self-employed. You had one individual in the example you gave, Kyle, 90% of their time is self-employed. As long as they meet one of the eligibility criteria outlined in the guidance and in the law, i.e. they can't work because the governor has ordered them to stay home, then those individuals will be eligible. And we will simply, it will turn into a, how do we validate the wage information that they have, their prior wage history, to determine what their benefit amount will be. And just for individuals who are on the call, the maximum weekly benefit amount you could receive would be up to the maximum benefit amount for unemployed individuals, which is up to $513. The minimum amount you would receive if you are a full-time self-employed individual and you don't have enough wages to provide a higher benefit amount, the minimum amount you would receive right now in Vermont is $190 or $191. Now, keep in mind, you will also be eligible for the additional $600 federal pandemic unemployment compensation. So, but Kyle, in the circumstances you gave for a part-time individual who works part-time in self-employed business, part-time as an employee, we would likely have that person file an unemployment insurance claim. If they're eligible for unemployment insurance based on the wages that have been reported to us, that person could continue to file regular UI. If the person was ineligible for unemployment insurance, that person would then, we would shift that person to the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, and we would determine their eligibility there. Kyle, I'll kick it back to you unless you want to go into some more detail about specific eligibility provisions. I think, again, I'll just kind of reiterate, for all the self-employed individuals in the state, you are most likely eligible. It will just become a matter of getting your wage information and for what period, so we can determine what your benefit amount would be. For somebody who continues to work part-time, they would still be eligible under the pandemic unemployment assistance. Similar to unemployment insurance, they would just report any earnings that they're making to us on a weekly basis, and we would deduct their weekly benefit amount based on the specific criteria.
Great, thanks, Cam. Sorry about that. My headphones and my microphone weren't working, so just want to make sure you can hear me now.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Kyle,
so yeah,
Kyle, if I could add just one thing from my perspective, just want to remind people, and I think we already hit on it, but if there are questions about the CARES Act, the relief package, and next steps, they can go to our website. On the main page, we have right on the home page, it says CARES Act, self-employed independent contractors. And if you click on that, we'll update with guidance, but really the specific thing right now is if you fall into this category, believe you fall into this category, sign up for our newsletter, and then we can inform you when this system is live and operational so you don't miss out, on timing and stuff. The other thing is that you can always file a claim now if you really feel the need. But again, like Cameron said, that may you may still be determined as ineligible depending until the new system is live. So both of those methods are available to you, and we'll work through whichever one you choose.
thank you, Commissioner. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself there as I started to talk. I appreciate you kind of clarifying that. And one thing that I do want to clarify too for folks, I got a couple people asking, this broadcast will be recorded and posted online for viewing later. And then we will also be continuing to send out guidance and information, whether it be from this call or overall through that newsletter that the Commissioner and Cameron were mentioning. Just Cameron, just for you, as we kind of transition into next steps, A lot of the questions that we are receiving really kind of center around people who had previously applied for unemployment. People who had submitted an initial, like we have an anonymous question. If I had already did my initial application and checked self-employed, just kind of going through to make sure, what are the steps that an individual who is self-employed should take, kind of the two roads, whether they have already applied or submitted their initial application on it through our website, or if they have just been waiting. So I think there's two different roads that we kind of want to describe here for folks. So if you could just give us the roadmap for those couple of folks.
Yep. Yeah, I'd be happy to, Kyle. For an individual who has already filed for unemployment insurance benefits, please know that we are doing everything we can to get all applications that have been submitted into our system as quickly as possible. For example, to date, I believe that we are now caught up. We are in a cadence now where all applications that have been, let me back up, the vast majority of applications that have been submitted have been entered in. And now we are in a cadence where online forms, online initial applications are being entered into our system the next day. So today we will be entering in all claims that were submitted as of yesterday. Granted that because of the large influx, there are some that needed particular special attention that we are working as quickly as we can through the process to reach out to individuals, gather any additional information needed, or going through the adjudications process, etc. But for the vast majority of the applications that have been submitted to date, they have been entered into our system. So if you have received a monetary benefit amount to date, that means that you are eligible for unemployment insurance benefits, and you would just go forward with the unemployment insurance program. For example, when we look at the first monetary method for unemployment, we are looking at the first 4 of the last 5 completed calendar quarters for your wage information, for your wage history. So for most individuals, that's going to be looking at calendar year 2019. So if you have only been self-employed for the past 3 months, for the past 4 months, you may be eligible for unemployment insurance benefits. And if you apply for unemployment insurance, you may receive a monetary amount. And if that is the case, then you're eligible for UI, and you would just move forward filing your regular unemployment insurance claims and receiving your unemployment insurance benefits that way. For individuals who have filed, they may have received a determination telling them that they are denied because they do not have enough wages in our system, a monetary denial letter. For those individuals, they need to maintain that information. And I would recommend, as the commissioner said, sign up for the newsletter on our website, because once we get the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program established, we will then reach out, let those individuals know who have signed up for the newsletter. The program is up. We will do the best we can, like I said, to download the information from the initial UI claims filing so people don't have to refile. But that will be the best mode of communication, and we will let them know the program is established. Now we will be moving forward with enrolling individuals, and they need to maintain that monetary denial letter, because that will be evidence, for example, that they have applied for unemployment insurance benefits and been denied. For individuals who have not yet filed for unemployment insurance benefits, we are not in a position to say you must file, because we're still trying to work out those details with the U.S. Department of Labor. We have a webinar with the U.S. Department of Labor, all states, tomorrow afternoon, where we will be going over the guidance that was issued on Sunday and trying to address these specific questions that still linger. And so I don't want to alarm anyone. I don't want to say everybody must go file if that's not what USDOL is going to direct us to do. So for those who have filed, you've received your monetary, you can maintain that denial and await for the program and await for further information. For those people who haven't yet filed, they can file. Just know that you will likely get a monetary denial letter if you have been self-employed for the past 18 months. And what we may have to do is, if we get confirmation from USDOL that everyone must file for UI first, we will then provide that notice to everyone. You must file for unemployment. When you receive a denial, you can then file for pandemic unemployment assistance. So in the meantime, if individuals who haven't filed want to go ahead and file, we are not telling them not to do that. If that is what you choose to do, that is fine. Just again, know that you will likely get a denial, and we will then you will await further guidance from us. Again, no one will be denied benefits by not filing today. So because if you choose not to file because you're awaiting on further information, we will be able to backdate your claim to a point where these pandemics started, where you were directly impacted. So I don't want people to think by not filing you are somehow going to be denied. That will be something we will be able to address once the program has been established.
Great, thank you, Cam. If you could just kind of talk through some of what the resources are, or I should say, let me say, what's kind of the timeline at this point? I know you're just kind of hitting that home. I know you kind of talked about it a little bit ago, but just in terms of individuals who have already applied or haven't already applied, what are those steps that we kind of already talked through? But what does the timeline look like for us from the Department of Labor at this point? And this may be something the commissioner may want to add in as well.
Sure. So as I mentioned, the law was passed just a little over a week ago. We immediately signed agreements with the U.S. Department of Labor in order for us to be able to implement these programs. We did not waste any time. And then last week, we began the process of requirements gathering and designing what this system will look like. And so we've spent the vast majority of the second half of last week on that work. We were awaiting further guidance from USDOL, which came out on Sunday evening. And so yesterday and today, me and my team have been working on trying to refine those requirements of exactly what is going to be necessary to get the program stood up. Please know that we are working as quickly as we can. We are trying to do this as efficiently as we can, both for the department's administration of the program, but also for the individuals who will be interacting with this new platform. So it will likely be very similar to what we've been able to establish for the initial online filing to date. So we're working through, we have our technical folks, our ADS staff, and the vendors that we work with are already working to begin developing this new application. So please, everybody know, we appreciate the patience. We are already working on this, and I always try to hesitate with a time frame because I don't want to promise something that we're not able to deliver. But I believe our hope is to have something ready to go, hopefully by even next week. If we can have an initial application up by next week, and then that gives us the time to finish working out the weekly application. But I would say it is, as the commissioner mentioned at the beginning, for us, it is a matter of days and week or two at the most, where we hope to have this stood up. Some of our other partner states are looking at a much longer runway, but we are hoping to have this stood up within the next week, 2 weeks tops, I would say.
Thanks, Cam. Sorry, I trying to get back to my desktop here. So as I kind of click through and deal with the technology, I just was trying to find the exact question and was interested to hear the answer. And a lot of the questions that we're getting are, eligibility. And as I said earlier, we'll be putting out some more information as a follow-up to this virtual town hall as well. But I was interested, you were talking about the reporting of wages, whether or not they were eligible or not. I can't find the exact question. We've had so many coming in.
I will call this meeting to order.
A couple that own a business.
Many of you may be surprised to learn that I'm calling this meeting to order, and the reason I'm doing that is under the town charter, the manager shall preside at the organizational meeting prior to the election of the chair. And the charter also says that the board shall meet 14 days after the annual meeting for the purpose of organizing, electing the chair, vice chair, and adopting the rules of transaction. All of which are on our agenda tonight. The charter doesn't offer any guidance on what the manager shall do as presiding officer, other than what election chair. So I've always kind of taken an opportunity to say a few things. And
we will have to validate in some way, shape, or form some level of wage information. The way unemployment insurance works is you have to have a certain amount of wages in your base period. It demonstrates an attachment to the labor force. And so you have to meet monetary thresholds in order to be eligible. In setting up these programs, this pandemic unemployment assistance is modeled on what's called disaster unemployment assistance. And that is a program that has existed in the past. Vermont actually utilized the disaster unemployment assistance program back during Hurricane Irene. Some individuals may recall we did have, I believe up to a few thousand employers, self-employed individuals who took advantage of that program. So the pandemic program is kind of modeled on that disaster program. And again, it is designed knowing in mind that a lot of these individuals are self-employed. And so how do we demonstrate some level of information needed to calculate a benefit amount? And that's where we will have to rely most likely on people's tax returns. Now, for some some claimants, some individuals, independent contractors, for example, they may be able to demonstrate wages through, their weekly check, or their tax return may demonstrate that they earned wages. Those, it'll be a little bit easier to calculate what their weekly benefit amount will be. But for the self-employed, you may be telling yourself, Kyle, exactly like the example you gave, I don't take a salary, or you may show a loss on your taxes. For those individuals, we will still likely need to validate that information, i.e., have their most recent tax filing to demonstrate that. But the program is designed in those instances where somebody doesn't actually have they can't demonstrate wages earned, that they will most likely receive the minimum benefit amount. And that's how this program is set up, keeping in mind that the self-employed, you may not take a wage. So for those people, you will likely be eligible for the minimum benefit amount, which is set. It is a formula in how that calculation is set. So please understand that this is not something that the department sets. It is not something that the legislature can set. It is set by a calculation of the average unemployed individual's weekly benefit amount. And that minimum floor right now is set at, it was $190 in the first quarter of 2020. and it went up to $191 beginning April 1st. So for the individuals that don't take a wage, that can't demonstrate wage earnings, they will likely get that minimum amount of $190 or $191. Keeping in mind that everyone in this program, both the unemployed who are collecting unemployment insurance, but also the individuals who are eligible and will receive this benefit under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, they are all eligible for the additional $600 federal pandemic unemployment compensation, the additional $600. So they will receive that on top of any minimum benefit amount they receive under this program. I hope that helps answer the question, Kyle.
Yeah, that's great, Cam. I appreciate it. And I think I'll take some time now just in these last 10 or so minutes just to address some of the questions that we've been getting. So I'm just going to jump in. You know, a couple of questions are asking about, you know, they are eligible to telework, but a lot of what they're getting is a slowdown in business. So Karen asks, can you clarify the not eligible if you can telework with pay statement? I'm a freelance graphic designer who primarily works on graphics supporting large user conference and events. They have all been canceled, so my income has gone down to zero. Will I still qualify? You know, and I think, you know, somebody else had asked, I do telehealth, yet I service schools that have been closed and get paid by insurance companies. Plus, many people are refusing to use telehealth, impacting my income. So what are my resources that are available? Again, just kind of going back to, you know, are they eligible? Are they not eligible? And I think just those are some of the larger kind of seeing a slowdown in business as a result of COVID-19.
Yep. Yeah, happy to address that, Kyle. We don't ever want to disincentivize people to file because it's, you know, it's always hard in these circumstances to provide information that will cover every single fact scenario for someone. So I always try to be careful and not disincentivize anyone from filing a claim. We want everyone who has been impacted, who has seen their hours be reduced or their wages decreased, to apply, because we are here to help assist in any way that we can. So specifically for the people that telework, that continue to telework, based on our current reading of the guidance that we have available, if they have their hours reduced, they would still be eligible. So it's not just can you telework, it's are you teleworking and receiving the same level of income that you were receiving prior to the impacts of COVID-19. So for the individuals that are continuing to telework, but their hours have been reduced, their opportunities have gone down, they're not receiving as much work, they would likely be eligible. Now, I will highlight that they will be required to certify to us that the information they're providing is accurate, and we are being required by USDOL to inform people and require them to certify that they understand that they're submitting the information under penalty of perjury. So what we would require in that instance is if you're teleworking with reduced hours, that you would just certify to us on a weekly basis how many hours you're working, how much you're earning, and then we would address that with your weekly benefit amount accordingly. But if you have had your hours reduced, you would very well likely be eligible for this program to help make up that difference in loss of income because of the impacts of this business, impacts of this pandemic, excuse me.
Yeah, that's great. And before I move on, I want to address a question on the Paycheck Protection Program. Before I get to that, a couple of questions that came in, just want to clarify too, were for essential businesses as well as for businesses like Airbnb and Uber. Would it still be, if you could just address that, and it sounds like the same case, that if they've seen a slowdown in business as a result of COVID-19, they would likely be eligible. If that's a correct statement to make.
Exactly, it is a correct statement. You know, independent contractors and self-employed, they could apply for UI if they're not eligible there. Because of a slowdown, you're an Uber driver, you're not getting the same level of business, obviously, because everyone is being directed to stay at home. Yes, you would be eligible. Like I've tried to say, the vast majority of people, I think, that will receive benefits through this program are probably self-employed, but it also includes other individuals who are not eligible for regular unemployment insurance, such as independent contractors, people who work part-time, etc. So yes, they will likely be eligible as well. Kyle, did I miss the first part of your question?
No, I think you addressed it.
Okay.
I think just wanted to kind of make sure that those, because they were talking about essential businesses, so I just wanted.
Oh, okay, yeah.
As long
on that piece, sorry, real quick, just to address that. What we're looking at is there a slowdown? You know, so even if you're an essential business and if you have a slowdown, then you would likely be eligible as well. So, for example, if you're, you know, keep in mind, I mean, this is where we have to be careful with the distinction between the two programs. If you're an essential business and your employees, if you've cut back on hours for your employees, now they're working part-time, they will likely be eligible under regular unemployment insurance benefits under the regular UI program. Now, if you yourself are self-employed or you're an independent contractor working in an essential business, as long as you've had some impact, you've had some reduction in hours, to where you're not working full time, then yes, those individuals would be able to apply under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program.
Great, thank you, Cam. One question that has been asked is, would applying for the Paycheck Protection Program take away from unemployment benefits? You know, I don't know if we can kind of talk about that in overarching concepts. I know that there's a lot of, again, specific nature to that type of a question, and there's a lot of different access points available for people who are self-employed. I'm not sure if we still have Joan on or not, but I guess Cam, if you can kind of talk to that in just terms of, I think it goes back to the eligibility question, is if they are applying for a lot of different, if there are a lot of these different resources that are out there, and unemployment insurance certainly is one. You know, how does applying for these different programs impact the self-employed individuals? I'm not sure. Commissioner
yeah, and I'll just jump on real quick, but I see Joan is here, so I'll toss it to her. But the piece that I would add from the unemployment and the Department of Labor perspective is it's really about wages and loss of wages. So depending on the Paycheck Protection Act or program, if someone is continuing to earn a wage during that period, then that is likely to make them ineligible for benefits. If they see a reduction in wage or if they lose wages altogether, that's where unemployment insurance fits into the picture. But I'll let Joan Goldstein, okay. Commissioner Goldstein, talk about PPP.
Hi, yeah, so that's a great segue. If they're not eligible for the unemployment insurance, then they should apply for the Paycheck Protection Plan. And that is basically a loan that you would apply for from your local bank, your local SBA lender. And the idea is that you would then get that part of the loan forgiven for any wages that you've been paying. So what we've been advising folks to do, whether self-employed or otherwise, is to apply for the Paycheck Protection Plan, as well as apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan could be applied for at sba.gov, and it's an online application. And at this point, you will not be forced into accepting any commitment that they may make. So it's a good idea at least to get a commitment. The Paycheck Protection Program is first come, first served. So it's important to get to it before they run out of funds. And the EIDL is accepting many, many, many applications, and it's a very straightforward application. But if you have questions or problems or just want to talk to somebody about it, where our recommendation is to go to the Small Business Development Center. They could help you with the financials and things that you need in order to submit an application. You could also call us at the agency at 802-461-5143, and we have people ready to help. You could also contact us at commerce.covid19@vermont.gov.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Goldstein, for that. So with that, we have about 2 minutes left. Commissioner Harrington, I don't know if you want to give just kind of a last word on some of these topics, just to kind of round it out for folks. First of all, we appreciate everybody who's taken the time to join us today. We had about 1,000 people join us, and we appreciate all the questions. We are obviously sorry we couldn't get to all of them. Tried to get to as many as we could. So Commissioner Harrington, I will kick it to you for some closing thoughts.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. I'll just give a shout out to both Director Cameron Wood and Commissioner Joan Goldstein for today and their participation. We will continue to do these on a multi-day period each week. So it looks like the employer ones will land on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we'll continue to provide these as long as attendance is high and there is interest. Hopefully people found it of value. If there is a specific topic you are looking to hear about, please feel free to drop us a line, and you can do that through our website, and we can make sure we put that topic on one of our agendas. But otherwise, we've got another one coming up on Thursday, and Kyle, if you want to talk about that topic and just give people a heads up, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll just say thank you. Hopefully you found it to be of value, and if there's anything else you need, we're here and we'll do our best to get back to you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Joan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. I'm just putting up on the screen. If you are looking for more information on these virtual town halls, you can go to labor.vermont.gov/calendar. Again, that's labor.vermont.gov/calendar. We will be posting all of these virtual town hall events and more information on these on our department calendar. Thursday's event will be geared toward employer services, kind of from a beginning to end for the unemployment insurance process, going from the individual who is or the business that is and the employer that is looking to potentially in a position that they may need to lay employees off, going through that process maybe for the first time, and then kind of rounding that back out to paying out benefits from our perspective, and then even now you're in a position you need to rehire and kind of the services that our workforce development team has as well. So with that, I will echo the thanks from Commissioner Harrington to Cameron Wood and Commissioner Joan Goldstein, and thank you all for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.